Greetings and good evening. Welcome to the Psychic Inside Show. My name is Joelle, and I am the Viberarian. I am on a mission to elevate, enlighten, and empower. And I am here on the Viberarian Radio Network on Blog Talk Radio on Tuesdays for a conversation with people who have experienced many things on the pathway to uncovering their own psychic gifts and abilities. Now, I believe that everyone is psychic. You just may not realize it or recognize it, and that in having these opportunities of conversation, that hopefully there'll be something that you hear that sparks a little bit of recognition in you that will then help you step more fully into accepting all that you are and all that you can possibly be. Now, I'm here on Tuesdays. You can give us a call at 646-787-8436 if you have a question for anyone during the show, or if you would like a reading during the last section of the show only, then just press the #1 key, #1 key. That lets me know that you would like to chime in with something. Also, you can follow this program on YouTube after the show. The archives will be posted up for you to listen to. Just a reminder that this show is available on the podcasting channels through iTunes and Stitcher and TuneIn. So if you're one of the subscribers who's listening to this, thank you very much for subscribing to these shows. The Viberary community is what I like to call the Good Vibe Tribe. I believe firmly that your vibe attracts your tribe, and birds of a feather do flock together. So I've got these communities out here, of course, in the social universe on Facebook and Instagram, Twitter, and you can find me to connect by looking for the handle at the Viberarian. Now that is TheViberarian. And the Viberary is the YouTube repository for all of the shows that we have here during the week. And that is Viberary. Now, I am a librarian by trade, but I have kind of metamorphosed into a higher vibrational form of information deliverer and researcher. So that's where the Viberarian comes from. I'm all about elevating the energy and the frequency, and I believe that we can be instrumental in passing on the positivity. So if you are out there in any of those social areas and you see something that you believe needs to be shared with people, something to put a smile on the face or to enlighten others with a helpful tip or tidbit, or even those memes that we see that are just kind of one-line quotes, please just tag #GoodVibeTribe or Get Lifted, and I will amplify that message as far and wide as I can within my power. So on Tuesday evenings, I love having these conversations because it gives me an opportunity to ask as many questions as I possibly can, which is something that makes my little old research librarian's heart really happy. But it also gives me a chance to get to know people better on a personal level. So the Psychic Inside Show is kind of like a personal mission for me to really unlock the things that people have to share with us. Many times we pass by each other on the street and we don't even realize the depths of life that that person who we're standing next to in the grocery store line, at the checkout, or at the pump at the gas station, we don't even realize what it is that they have been through. My guest this evening is a person who we were passing each other in practice. And so many times you all hear me talk about the Big Psychic Fair, which is an event that has been going on up in Roswell, Georgia for almost 30 years now. This is kind of like a train depot or way station for psychics who are there to provide readings for people at a very affordable rate, and it's always somebody different who are there that you can sit with, and so you meet a lot of people. I went for many years myself as just a client to go up and check in and have tune-ups, but a while back I started doing reading up there myself. So one of the people who I would pass by as I was on my way often to the back to take a restroom break in the back corner is where the Reiki Center is, and you can have Reiki services. And I would pass this smiling lady who gave me her business card, and I would smile at her and then rush back, and, so that's how it would tend to go. But we were always smiling until one day, excuse me, I decided to pause and have a moment, take a breather, and say, hey, how are you doing? What's your name again? I have your card. And she says, oh, my name is Chris. And I knew we were going to be talking with each other eventually. And I started laughing because I kind of knew myself that it was on the radar, but it was one of those things where I really just had not had time to pause to really ask her who she was and what she was about. But I could tell she was doing a great deal of energy healing work over there in that Reiki corner, because the waves of it would just kind of be coming off that whole area. And people would get up and they would just look so shifted from when they laid down on the table. So I knew there was powerful work that was very positive being done. So tonight I'm very pleased to have with me for the Psychic Inside Show, Kristin McDowell, who is the owner of All Things Intuitive, LLC, which is a newly formed metaphysical business here in the Atlanta area. So she is doing big things and doing them really quickly. So welcome to the Psychic Inside Show, Chris. I'm so excited.
Me too. Thank you, Joelle. It's great to be here.
How long have you been working up at the Psychic Fair now?
I've been working probably about 5 or 6 months. I think it was around March. And before that, that was something that I really wanted to do. And it was something that I manifested. It was just the premier place to do readings, and I knew that I wanted to be part of that. And I used to go and visit. I used to go and get readings myself, and I thought, I'd like to do this. So it hasn't been
were
that
the
long,
readers
actually.
Were the readers who you were sitting with, would they ask you, when are you going to start reading? Could they tell that you were psychic too, and you sat down in front of them?
They did. One of them said I shouldn't label myself, and I should just, I would go in and, I went to a lot of psychics, when all this started happening to me. I had a spiritual awakening in 2018, and of course, I needed a lot of confirmation. So I would call a lot of psychics. I would ask a lot of psychics, and go to different psychic fairs to try to check in, make sure. Oh, is this what you see? Okay. It took about 10 or 12 of those before I really believed that I had the gifts that I deep down knew I had. But what I learned from one was just that I needed to not box myself in and not say I'm this, I'm that. I'm all of those things and more is the advice I got from one of them at the fair. And she said, you just need to step into your power, and the next month I was there.
So when it comes to labeling yourself, does the term psychic resonate with you, and is that something that you use to describe yourself when asked?
It's funny. I just listened to one of the other shows and heard that question, and I thought, how am I going to answer that? And I'm getting used to it. It's not something that is, easy to step into. I have said it aloud. I think I prefer intuitive, and I was laughing too in thinking about what was said about Miss Cleo I think intuitive is a little bit easier to digest these days than psychic, but yes, I do feel comfortable in using that term.
So in terms of the word psych, like I really get into this aspect of the conversation because I have been challenged by people to change the name of this show because they feel that the word psychic is going to turn people off. In terms of using it to describe yourself, is your like the connotation of the word, did it have kind of a negative charge in for you personally, or was it more from, say, like the environment where you interact that the term would be more challenging?
It doesn't have a negative charge for me. It's just that for me, it was something that I really had to step into. I really had to believe for myself because I don't know. The way I thought about it was, okay, if you say you're a psychic, you better be psychic. And it's something that you feel like people are going to kind of test you and question you, and you feel like you're on the spot if you tell somebody that you're psychic. They would sometimes want to test you to make sure that you know what you're talking about, but that doesn't really work for me.
I find that interesting because it's a similar thing when people say, "Oh, so can you sing?" And you say, "Oh, well, yes, I can sing." And you mean, well, I can hold a tone, I can sing musically, and I know what notes are, but they expect you to then be like Whitney Houston or something when you open your mouth. So the expectations that go with that kind of energy, I can relate to that being kind of challenging because then they'll say, well, where is my great-grandmother? Can you give me a message from them and what's going to happen in my future? And you're like,
I get a lot of yes no questions. Well, does he love me? Does he really love me? Are we going to end up married? And sometimes it's difficult. I read cards and I have feelings, and usually I prefer to do in-person readings. I like working the fair because a lot of times when I am able to really connect with people, it's through Reiki, and it's also through, maybe just holding on to their hands and having things come through that way. But I try not to give people yes or no answers about anything because a lot of times, we all have free will and things can change. But I can tell when I'm being tested. I've had several times where people have wanted to find out how a court case was going to come up. And boy, that's a big question. That's a big ask. How am I going to do on Monday in court? Well, let's pull the angel tarot, and sometimes you'll pull judgment, and then, okay, that's pretty much your answer. So it's just, it's interesting. I've had all kinds of questions asked, and it's always nice, to experience different people and different readings. But and I do have medium abilities, and I can't say that I see dead people. I don't, but I hear dead people a lot, and I have visions in my head, and people will come through that way. But I can't call and say, hey, let's talk to your Aunt Sarah. It just comes through. A lot of times it comes through when I have my hands on people when I'm doing Reiki, or even if I'm, if they prefer not to have touch. If I am doing Reiki, it'll come through, but not always. I can't promise.
So you've talked about, so if you had to describe the clairs that are strongest for you in terms of how we talk about the psychic senses, you've mentioned clairaudience, so you have hearing, and then you said clairvoyance.
Yes.
Okay.
I would say clairvoyance has really opened up in the past few months. More and more in the readings, I've noticed that has really surprised me how much the clairvoyance has opened up. I'm seeing things and, closing my eyes, holding people's hands and seeing them smiling, and, one particular person, not to go too much into a reading, but just seeing that person smiling with a new woman in his life, seeing them happy and active and out hiking. It was just, I could explain everything that I saw, and that's been something that is new. The clairaudience has been all along, definitely the past year, and probably longer if I really, admit it to myself. And, claircognizant and just feeling. And I had a smelling incident with you.
Oh.
Remember that?
Well, I don't. Oh, yes, chocolate chip cookies. You're like, are you a baker? I'm like, no.
For the audience, I was doing reiki on Joelle, and I was like, am I hungry or am I smelling chocolate chip cookies? And it was really funny because there were no cookies. And, later on that week, it all made sense. But I just thought I was hungry. That was the first experience I had with the clair that involves scent. I can't even remember what it's called. But that had never happened. That had never happened with me before. Yeah, I just thought I was hungry.
That was so interesting because you said, do you bake?
Was.
And I'm like, well, not really. I burn stuff when I bake. But you were like, but I'm smelling chocolate chip cookies. And it was like, oh, okay. We had just had conversations about this oven and how wonderful it was that it was used to bake these chocolate chip cookies. This was with a good friend of mine, and her father often comes through in terms of being around me with such a loving energy. So I felt that it was just a beautiful acknowledgement of that presence. So it was like a surprise with a smile as well for me, too.
It was.
The chocolate chip cookie incident. Now, you talk about it. 2018 to 2019, 24 months, give or take, we're talking about a very rapid kind of movement, and you attribute this to a transformational experience, a sudden kind of shift in your reality. What happened, and what was that? What was life like before this transformation, and then what was the transformation itself?
Well, before the transformation, I worked in media for a very long time. I worked as a breaking news editor and producer. I was a reporter for a long time. Not going to get into a whole lot of details around that, but totally different, very logical work. That's, I think, finding out that I truly was psychic was something that I needed a lot of confirmation about, and asking people later on. It's because of my background. I spent most of my life in media, ever since I got out of college, and even in high school, I was on the school paper and spent a lot of time working on that. And I left that job and moved to Georgia. And but before that, I had a really difficult relationship with my mother, as a lot of people do. I found that so many people who are intuitive and people I've met down the line in the past couple of years, everybody has a story, and a lot of times it involves some type of pain or trauma. And in my case, I just had a very for better lack of a word, narcissistic mother. And it was, she was pretty much impossible to please most of the time. And, it was difficult. And, over the years, I started working on that relationship and started really speaking my mind. And the more I spoke my mind, the more difficult it was for us to get along. And we became estranged for about 4 years. And that was very tough. So I would say that, that was probably the big event in my life. And, we weren't talking, and we had a big falling out, and most of it was just me standing up for myself and speaking my truth. And when I did, it didn't go over very well, but I needed to do that to set myself free and to feel better. And we just didn't talk for a while, and I found out my mother was in a coma for a very long time. It was a couple of weeks, and my family finally got in touch with me and told me, and she was on a ventilator. This was back in 2017, and we all thought that was it. We thought that was it, and they pulled the ventilator out, and she lived. And I knew after that I needed to just end this strife between us. And I when she was able to talk again, we reconciled, and we both wanted to reconcile, and we did. And I had a real nice visit with her after that, and kind of put everything out on the table, and we talked. But the turning point really for all this, the spiritual awakening, was that my mom passed away, and she passed on April 9th of last year. And that's when everything happened. And what I've been told by the many, many psychics that I went to for validation, which if you have a narcissistic person in your life, you need a lot of validation. That's not going to be a surprise to anybody. But, I can't tell you how many people, it's embarrassing how much money I spent. Yeah, I would be like, are you sure? Are you sure that I'm really psychic? Even though I already knew, and I had all these experiences, from childhood on. I still needed to know what other people think and, thought, and I still needed that validation. But, yeah, when she died, it was just, everything just opened. Everything opened. I don't know how to explain it any other way. And so many things changed.
Was there an awareness of her in spirit as she transitioned in terms of connecting with you after her passing, or was it other?
Actually.
Oh, okay.
So here in our home, we started to see a lot of flickering lights, and you hear about that sometimes, but it was getting ridiculous. I mean, we have lights in the kitchen, and they would flicker. And it was, pretty suddenly after she passed, I would say in the first, probably the first couple of weeks, we would see the light bulbs, literally. I have videos, and I was looking back to try to figure out the timetable of all these events, and I have videos that go back to, just shortly after her passing. And I say it was all Stranger Things around here with the light bulbs. We're talking to the light bulbs. I'd say, say to my son, come down, Grandma's here. And he's like, Mom, I have a 16-year-old, and he's like, Mom, you're talking to the light bulb. I'm like, it's not just the light bulb, it's Grandma. And then I would say, Grandma, if you're proud of how Adam's doing in school, show us a sign. And then the light bulb would go out, and then it would flash on really bright. I have so many videos of this. It's crazy. It was so crazy. I mean, it was really just constantly for weeks and weeks. And, I made a lot of recordings and asked questions, and I asked some things in private, and there were things, my husband would call me and say, your mom's here again, and I'd say, well, I'm out doing something, but see if you can keep her around until I get home, and then I'd get home, and it'd just be flashing, and all kinds of things. I'd smell coffee when I hadn't made any. We used to, one of the things we did do together was we could always have coffee together when when I was growing up, getting ready to go to school, and just coffee's always been a big thing with our family. The typical Irish family, we drank a lot of coffee, and I still do with my brothers and my father. But we'd sit down in the morning and have coffee together, and I started really feeling her presence when I was making coffee in the morning, and just smelling it before I brewed it, and just feeling her with me. So that was another one of those experiences.
Let me just share with you two things. So I'm sitting here having my own personal experience of this because my mother's birthday is April 9th. And she is still living, and one of the things that we have a shared love of is coffee. So in the morning she is making coffee, and we will sit out on the deck and have coffee. And there'll be times when a red bird will come around, and that's kind of like a shared symbol for her mother. Of course, my mom's not necessarily into psychic stuff by any means, but we kind of have, acknowledged that the cardinal really is like her mother's presence around us as well. And that's one area where we have connected in terms of the continuity of the mother bonds. And of course my younger sister and I, we both love coffee and we'll often end our evenings with coffee, although we tease that my mom is with the decaf is just like a travesty. We need our fully caffeinated coffee, and my mom's not drinking the caffeinated at this point. But when you said April 9th, I thought about that, and of course our relationships with our mothers ourselves, and that the lessons that are reflected in that. So I can imagine that estrangement was, challenging, but as you said, necessary. And then for you to experience such a rapid shift. So you were experiencing the things in terms of the household. I think it's beautiful that your family was there experiencing it with you, and that it was something that was not taboo or hidden for you all to be seeing these flickering lights and stuff. So after that, how did you begin to observe your other psychic awarenesses?
Oh, boy, there's just so many things. I actually wrote them down because that's what I do. I drink a lot of coffee and I take a lot of notes. It's the journalist in me. One of the things was I wanted to try to see, because we were not able to communicate well in terms of, here in the 3D in this life, we were not able to communicate well. When we did have coffee, we would have, pretty superficial type chats, and a lot of it was, she was just very sarcastic, and I knew that was her way of, showing me that she cared about me. She used to just make jokes a lot, and she always teased me about how I made the coffee. She always said it was too strong, and even if it, really wasn't that strong, it was just our thing. And she, just having her show me that, she was still here around me has been very comforting. But very soon after she passed, I had called the psychics, and, I started noticing a lot of really strange things happening. I started waking up between 3 and 4 in the morning a lot. And I have heard that's the witching hour, so to speak, where a lot of times spirit will try to get your attention. It was getting a little crazy because, I'm trying to work, and I was waking up between 3 and 4, almost on the dot. And I was getting night sweats, and constantly just, I'd wake up and I'd be soaked. And I thought, oh my gosh, it must be menopause. It wasn't menopause.
Right.
Okay, TMI, everybody, TMI alert.
No, it's true.
But these are, and I know now, I didn't know at the time, but I know now that these are all signs of a spiritual awakening. My taste for food started to change. I was a vegetarian when I was in college, and the wear black and listen to the Smiths, and meat is murder. I'm not eating meat. I was a vegetarian for a long time when I was younger, and I kind of gave that up and had chicken after my son was born. But I just noticed that I couldn't stand the taste of meat, and everything just started turning. And I know that again is another sign of going through an awakening. So, and then I would have just these ideas that would come in my head, and one of them was, even though my husband's mother, who's passed on, we had a very strong connection. Actually, just her 10-year anniversary was just over the weekend, so thinking about her a lot. But she was a Reiki master, and I would be her, the person she would practice on when she was starting out with that. And I just had this idea one night, and I wasn't meditating or anything. It wasn't at 3 or 4 in the morning. It was just an idea that came in my head. And I thought, I'm supposed to take a Reiki practitioner course. And I looked online, and I saw that there was one. This is like 6 o'clock on a Friday night. I was just, looking at my phone, thinking about it, and there was an opening for the next morning. And I signed up, and I paid, and I went. And that's how I ended up being a Reiki practitioner. And I did, less than 12 hours later, I was there and learning how to do it. And that was one thing. And then I was really drawn to cards, specifically Angel Tarot. I was one of the people who felt like old school tarot, regular tarot it was scary for me. You pull the death card, you pull the devil card, and if you don't know what it means and you don't understand it, it can be frightening. But now that I do, I have tarot cards, and I understand them now, but I prefer to read Angel Tarot, just for me, because I think it's a little softer, and it helps me to, just to read people, and the messages in the artwork are just a little easier for some people. But it was just becoming really interested in all those things. And then I started seeing numbers, and I started seeing 1111, which is the now when I'm reading people, I say, oh yeah. I ask a lot of times. I'll just hear something in my head when I'm giving a reading, and it'll be numbers. I'll hear the word numbers, and I ask people, are you seeing numbers? And then, for me, it was 1111, and then it was, okay, it's 7:11 in the morning, then it's 8:11, then it's 9:11, and now I've got some fours, and it still happens every day, all day long. And the interesting thing is, my brother now is starting to see numbers, and I believe he's undergoing an awakening at the moment. And but I see numbers, and just trying to think of any other things that happened. Just so many things like that. The numbers have been nonstop. Oh, yeah. The one thing was, there was one day where I saw, I'm not kidding, I saw 19 license plates with the number 7 on it in a row. And okay, it's funny now, but I thought I was just losing my mind. So I had to pull over and cry at that point. I'm like, okay, I don't know if I'm ready for all this, because, I know 7 is a really good number, but 19 in a row, I just thought I'm losing my mind. There were many times I thought I was losing my mind. And I think a lot of people feel that
that
way.
I'm laughing because I can totally relate. But 7 is absolutely for me a calling card of the divine feminine energy, the feminine aspect of creative spirit and all the many forms that that takes through different uh, deities and stories from different cultures and religions, from Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene, Kuan Yin, and Yamayasa. Whenever I see 7, that's a very strong, feminine, empowered kind of number and calling card for me. So I'm laughing. One day I
Mm.
was driving down the streets in Atlanta and I was thinking that I was going crazy and that I just really, the license
Wow.
plates that were showing up, I was like, you know what, this is, I was like, I was like, no, this is just too much. Literally a car swerved in front of me. It was an Audi A4, I remember to this day, and the license plate said like NMBR LOOK. It was like
Ooh.
number look. And I was like, I got a picture of it. And even, of course, being an unsafe driver, but I was like, okay, fine. I will look at the numbers. I will look at the numbers. But I had to giggle because literally the car almost cut me off. Like, no, don't doubt yourself. Look at these numbers. We're
Wow.
trying to communicate with you. So when you start to hear things, like when you started to realize that you were not hearing yourself talking to yourself, how did that start to come in for you?
It really, I really started to experience it when I was working the fair. And,
Mm.
what's really interesting about that place, I'm sure you've noticed, is there's so much energy in there, and
Mhm.
the lights are always flashing, and we're around so many people who are so tuned in, and, there's
Mhm.
mediums who are just, oh, your mom's here. She
Mhm.
wants to tell you she's really proud of you, and so it's nice because I get a lot of messages now that, people who are friends of mine now who are mediums have passed things on. But I
Mhm.
find that when I'm in there, I'm able to plug in uh, so so much more than anywhere else, really. And I know a lot
Mhm.
of people feel that when they're in a place with so much energy, that it's almost too much, but it has the opposite effect on me. I seem to
Mhm.
be able to connect even deeper, more deeply with people when I'm reading in that environment. It
Mhm.
doesn't bother me, and I just go with it. I'm hearing things and I just don't think about it, and I just say what comes out of my mouth. And it doesn't make sense sometimes, and sometimes it does. But a lot of the clairvoyant experiences I've had lately have just been letting myself go and just closing my eyes and holding hands with somebody and just telling them, what I feel. In addition to doing the cards,
Mhm.
but sometimes I just take a break and I just say, just let me feel your energy. And
Mhm.
especially during Reiki, things always happen during Reiki for me. Just
Mhm.
experiences. I think it's that, for
Well,
me, it's that physical touch. I'm able to connect best when I'm, either in somebody's presence or touching them. And I think that's the healer
mhm.
in me.
Well, I can say just from experience that your little corner over there, it's like a whirlpool of vortex of energy that you're existing within it. It's very focused, but there's a lot happening over in that corner. And then at the end of the fair, when you're done, you just look like your eyes are really just bright and wild, and
Yeah.
your energy is just vibrating. And it's like I know that you've really done a lot of energy movement during that space, but it's not like you're uh, then wilding, popping everywhere and bouncing off the walls. It's just like you look like you ran a marathon, you know what I'm saying, in terms of you exerted a lot of energy during that time. So, I think when I've seen you reading, it's a little more calm around your space, but it's still charged up. But when you're over there doing that Reiki work, and I think you pretty much from start to finish the whole fair have somebody who signed up for you. So you're doing several hours of consistent energy work with people in terms of allowing healing to come through for you. Now, your Reiki teacher, who was your Reiki teacher?
I went to Wellspring Rejuvenation Center in Atlanta,
Mm-hmm.
and his name is Brad Dixon. He's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Just that was another kind of crazy experience too. I just we worked on the other people in the class, and I
Mm-hmm.
found that I was very ungrounded, and I would
Mm-hmm.
lay my hands on people and I could feel their pain, and it was really frightening sometimes and embarrassing, frankly, because sometimes I'd end up crying, and there's no crying in Reiki. So now I really work hard to ground myself before I do that, because I can feel what's going on with people, and I know where their pain is, and you know I know a lot more than they may want me to know sometimes, because
Mm-hmm.
people might be coming in for a Reiki session, but I do intuitive Reiki, and I usually will just ask them if it's okay for me to give them messages when I'm doing Reiki on them. And most people
Mm-hmm.
want to hear, but sometimes I'll feel something that is related to the heart chakra, and find out that the person had a heart attack or just had surgery, and if they're having back pain, I can feel that they're having back pain or sciatica, whatever it is. But one of the reasons that I really look like a drowned cat at the end of the day, even though the Reiki energy, the way that too how it
Mm-hmm.
works, it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
drain you. You're
Right.
giving, but I'm not being drained because of the energy, but I really try to focus on the pain that people are having. And I have a lot of clients who've been coming back, and I know they're in pain, and I know that I can help
Mm-hmm.
them, and I really try to just focus so hard when I'm doing Reiki on them to take that pain away. And it's usually a lot of back pain, a lot of pain in the legs, the back and upper back, and sometimes
Mm-hmm.
sciatica. And I just focus very hard when I'm doing it, and I just tune out everything else that's around me. I couldn't even tell you who's in the rest of the room when I'm doing it most of the time.
Yes. um, the whole thing for our listeners who are not familiar, Reiki is working with universal life force energy. So it's not your energy that you're doing. So you're not
Right.
draining yourself of your own energy as you're working with people, but you're moving and allowing that energy to flow through you, and then transmuting things or assisting with the transmutation of those things out and into love and light. You seem to be very, very discerning also about cords, energetic cords of
Yes.
attachment that people might be carrying.
Yes. I definitely can feel chords. and and a lot of times I'll mention them to people, and if they want me to, I try to cut them as well. But basically they're just cords of attachment that we have to other people have to us, and they can
Hmm.
come from anywhere. And when I cut them, I call in Archangel Michael, and I just ask
Mhm.
to clear. And I do it every morning, because we get cords for
Mhm.
all kinds of situations, and I just ask to clear the cords in all directions of time and space. And
Mhm.
it's just to me, from what I have observed in this past year, is that a lot of times you have to just keep cutting them. And, sometimes they'll stay, and a lot of people have different ways that they feel about cutting versus dissolving and sending back to the universe. But I think eventually they go away, and sometimes you just have to integrate the cords. I think some of them, like a cord between my mother and I think, that's always going to be something that we share. And, for me, the key to that has been integration and not letting that drain my energy field. That's hard sometimes. So I always, in between clients, I clear myself all the time. I use sage, I use crystals, I stop and I'll say a prayer and just, I've learned that from other people that I know at the fair, other psychics who have helped me. I have to do that, or, I'll end up taking on somebody's back pain, and that has happened. I'll be like, oh my gosh, why is my back is killing me? And then I realized I didn't clear myself before, and I took on the pain, and that's very possible. So I'm really mindful of that now.
Yes. We actually have a caller who has a question. They've raised their hand and pushed the button, so I'm going to bring them on real quick and see. Welcome to the Psychic Inside Show. Did you have a question for Kristin this evening?
Is that me?
This is caller ending 0607. Hi. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
Hello. Welcome.
Well, I don't know. Is this the reading portion, or is this a question related?
Well, right now we're just in the interview portion. The reading portion will occur a little bit later on. I just saw the button go up, and I wanted to check in to see what it is you were wanting.
I came in a little bit after your start, so I'm not sure if Kristin spoke to how she actually got the inspiration for her oracle deck, because it's very fascinating.
Oh, we haven't got to that yet. Yes, that's coming up shortly. We haven't got to that. Okay. I'll put you back on hold for the next part of the reading portion, and we're going to get to the oracle cards next. Thank you so much for listening, though.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
So, yes, this is exciting. Okay, let me backtrack. Okay, so other than the Reiki, had you received a Reiki attunement in your work with your mother-in-law in previous to your awakening as part of the work that she did with you?
No, I actually didn't. I used to say I was the guinea pig, but she never attuned me to it. It was just like, we were really close, and she was like a mother to me, especially during times when I was having difficulty with my own, family situation. She just took me in, like another kid. I always felt like I was just, part of the family. And she'd say, I need to practice, and I'd be like, okay, I'll do it. And I really felt the energy from her. She's a very powerful woman, and I just instantly felt the warmth is, something that a lot of people experience, warmth and just a sense of really a good feeling of well-being and positivity, and just feeling like everything's going to be okay. A lot of times people get sleepy, but she did not attune me, but she practiced on me a lot. And I can't really say I had any visions or anything like that during that time, but her presence in my life was, we had a lot of talks about these type of things that are in my day-to-day reality now. Just, she believed in the flickering lights and different, we enjoyed metaphysical things. And, we even went together to see Doreen Virtue at one point back in the day, several years ago. And, we went to a Unity church in Orlando where I used to live, and we, just saw her give readings and everything. And I think I even bought a deck, not really knowing what I was doing at the time, or she did. One of us bought Healing with the Angels, and it was just really interesting. There were a lot of things that we did together that were like that. Just, Reiki was just one of many things.
So you had been exposed to the whole community and body of work of psychic things or metaphysical things prior to your transformational experience. So it's not like you went from say strict Catholic to woo-woo all of a sudden. It
no,
seems like you had
although
okay.
although I was born Catholic, I don't resonate with that. I haven't since I was a very young person. I always tended to go to non-denominational churches, and I would say the first time I was really exposed to a psychic was my friend Marina and I. She liked to go to the psychic fairs and things like that, and I went with her, and we got some readings, and I was kind of scared in the beginning because it was, I didn't really want to know what was going to happen. I'm trying to think of that. I think I did a lot of, she would go, and it's kind of funny. I think I can say this on the air, but we would say we were going to play tennis. And we'd go, she was married at the time, and she'd say, "Oh, Chris and I are going to play tennis." And we'd go to the psychic fair and just get readings, get the mini readings and stuff. But for a long time, we did that every once in a while. It was a lot of fun. We just kind of took it with a grain of salt. And after a while, it was like, I don't know if I want to know. And I was kind of afraid of it, but my interest in it was really sparked again after my mother passed, because having the relationship that we did, I was kind of hoping, we all hope. It's like a movie or something. You hope, there's some letter she's left saying she's so sorry for everything she ever did, and I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread, and, if she could do it all over again. No, there wasn't a letter. There was no letter. And, the answers that I've gotten have actually been through people at the fair who have spoken to her. And I've gotten a lot of healing that way by connecting with her, through other people I know at the psychic fair. And I can't say enough how great that place is. It's just, the people are so good at what they do. They're so gifted, and it's been a blessing for me to be able to, connect with my own mom and, with other people, with my grandfather and other people, from the other side. So it's really been a good experience.
That was actually I love how spirit kind of just leads from one thing to the next, because I was actually going to ask that. I have a dear friend who had a challenged relationship with their mother before her mother passed. And in the recent months to a year, things have been coming through where she'll sense a presence, hear a voice, get these shivers run down, and she'll say, "Oh," and I'll say, "Oh, that's your mother." And she's like, "Oh, stop." But for a while, then she said, "You know what, I think maybe it is your mother." And I did a reading, and it seemed what the message I got very clearly was that it was her mother. And she's like, "But she wasn't like that in real life, like she would always refer to her living mother experience." And I would always say, well, you have to give the soul credit that it's not necessarily the personality that you knew, and that there will be a level of understanding about what the journey of the two of you was as you transition on to the next plane. So you talking about the messages that have been healing for you coming through from your mother from the next plane. that's really kind of affirming, because a lot of times we get tied into our history with people.
Well, just hearing that, the females on my mother's side, it was really just, they didn't have the kind of relationships with their children that we have today with ours. A lot of women do with their kids. They just didn't. I understand it was a generational thing. Not all, but a lot of people were, they didn't have the types of close bonds with their children. It was kind of like, in my family, we were always, considered, I always said we're the unit of three. And, we were spoken about as you kids, or, you kids. Just, it was like we didn't have any individuality. And, I don't know, me being the fierce Leo with Scorpio rising that I am, I needed to have some individuality. And I just, my mother was a Capricorn, and we were very different. But what I do know now is that, I had a reading with one of our psychics there, and she just told me, we were talking, and she said, your mother, all the women just did not know how to show love to their children. And I said, I butted in, and I said, well, I've broken that pattern. And she said, your mother just said, but Chris has broken that pattern. And it was pretty chilling, because I really felt it at that time. And it was just the way things were. And I know now that she's doing her life review after you pass. You go through, from what I understand, you go through and kind of take a look at the way that you were on Earth. And it's not, from everything I've learned from other people, it's not like it's not like it's a big judgment about how you did. It's an understanding. It's like going to class, and you figure out, oh, I was supposed to love my kids. And my mom didn't have the kind of mother that, she didn't have a loving mother, and her mother didn't have a loving mother, and she did what she knew how to do. And she didn't know what, she didn't know how to, show her emotions. But she'd find ways. One of the things that I like to tell about her is that, when I was younger, I used to like to go out to clubs and stay out late, and I'd come home, and she'd be in the living room, and I knew she was waiting up, and she would just say, "Oh, I just got up to get a glass of water." I'm like, "Oh, really? It's 3:00 in the morning. You want to make sure I'm not dead." And that's how I knew. That was her way of telling me she loved me. And you just that's the language that you learn when you're in that kind of dynamic with somebody. She loved me the way that she could, and she showed me the way that she was able, and that's good enough for me now. And it's just the way it is. It's all you can do is just accept it. So I've learned a lot and grown a lot in the past, several years.
This generation of transitioning from the upbringing that we receive to the upbringing that then we pass on to the next generations. You see it so much with the masculine, who, the fathers of the Ward Cleaver generation, who were not, they were the providers who left the home but were absent and were not necessarily emotionally connected with their sons in a way that they learned to hug their sons. And we had the generation then of the 80s, which learned about self-help and emotional intelligence and kind of evolved to say it's okay to be a man and cry. So all of these kind of patterns of what people learn to do and to be are absolutely undergoing these shifts in evolution, so that each time we do better or we do differently, if not better, we have the capacity to do differently, to be more connected. We have books like The 5 Love Languages for Kids, you know what I'm saying? Or I'm okay, you're okay, all these kind of self-help things that help us have the conversations that we don't or didn't automatically know. And a lot of the assumption is if you have a child, well, then you know how to parent or to mother or to father. And the fact is, when you get older, you learn there was no handbook that came with it, and you came with your own wounds of self-esteem or worthiness or value, and then you're trying to raise other healthy beings in the midst of healing and being yourself, and to be able to move through that to where you were able to resolve your estrangement with each other. I'm sure that's something that, you were very grateful that you had that opportunity to shift the energy between the two of you all. And I imagine it took a great deal of emotional commitment and willingness to be vulnerable on your part in order to undertake that healing.
It was difficult. It really was, because, I'm Irish and we can hold a grudge for life. At least
Scorpio
that's the way
moon. You said Scorpio rising.
With Scorpio moon. We're fiercely loyal, but you have to be well deserving of that loyalty. And that's one thing that I've really kind of lightened up on that over the past couple of years, is just not being that type of person I was before. Just kind of, I was really black and white before, and I'm more in the gray area now. And it's, it's hard to step back and be the bigger person sometimes when you feel like it, wasn't necessarily your fault that, that things happen. But, the other thing about my mother is she started to fall into dementia toward the end. And the day, really the last day I had a conversation, a very lucid conversation with her, I was very fortunate to be able to have that, to be able to say the things that I needed to say. And, for the most part, she was lucid, but, just a couple hours after that and a couple hours before, she wasn't. So I consider that a blessing. And at the very end, right before she passed, I did get a chance to go down there. And the last time I ever saw my mother, so fittingly, was on St. Patrick's Day. It's the last day I saw her alive. And, I bought a clover, and I can't keep it alive. I bought another clover, and I can't keep that one alive. So I figure something else I just wasn't meant to have the clover. So. But, that's always been a special day for us, being an Irish family. And I'm really thankful that I was able to be with her. But, it was definitely the role reversal, because she was so sick and had dementia, and I was taking care of her like a child. And it was nice. It was actually a very nice moment, a nice day, to just be able to, help my mom drink her coffee or drink her protein shake, or, just help her get dressed and help her walk. And, I was glad I was able to do that for her. And it really, it was a good feeling after. And it was probably, it was a way of being close to her that I had never been and could never be, with her being in her full mind. It was just, it was a gift. If you can consider dementia a gift, for us it was.
Well, I can see why, as you talk about your experience. And, I think it's so interesting that with the passing of her and like your own work that you did leading up to that point to resolve what you had experienced in terms of as a child, and that now you have turned around and very quickly moved into a role where you facilitate healing for others. I think that's a very important aspect of the journey of, say, stepping into psychic fullness or fullness of self, be it any case, is that you've really done some deep inner work, and then you have a pathway or an example to then help facilitate others who are seeking to get spiritual answers themselves, or to change their energy or heal their energetic selves, and are coming to you then as a client. You're it's like you're the hair club for men. Not only are you a client, but you're the president of your own little kind of psychic club, right?
Well, it's like, when I look at things, and I like to follow Alex Miles, and look at the planets and the retrogrades, and right now is a pretty difficult time, but the way that I see life is it's a consistent cycle of purging and clearing, and I think it's something I'm going to personally be doing the rest of my life, because I don't think I'll ever be done with all the things I need to try to clear, and it's really hard, but I'm just trying to be a better person every day, and I don't always do it. I was really crabby this week. I haven't been crabby much. In the past year or so, but just this week and these retrogrades have been killing me. I'm just like, I'm falling back. I need to meditate, and I notice when I don't meditate, I really, I just go back to those ways, and, getting angry about things, and just stuff that hasn't bothered me in a long time. I am so sensitive to energy. I just, oh God, I just feel it.
Well, with that,
I know.
I was going to say, with that Cancer moon.
Yeah. It's like you look at the planets and you're like, there's a meme. I think it's like Kermit or something like that, looking at the planets. You see this? You see this? That's what's going on. Look at this mess. Kermit is looking at the planets and going, well, that's what's going on. Look at this mess. And that's how I know. I mean, a lot of times I'll feel it before I see it, and I'm like, oh, no wonder. It's hard because I feel it so strongly. I just feel energy so much from people, from Reiki, from situations, and just what's going on, with the planets. So,
well, that inner child wound, and what we've been going through with the eclipses and the planetary influences. I think a moon energy in Cancer, which is the kind of mother archetypical energy, is found in the Cancer zodiac. So dealing with deep wounds that we might have thought we dealt with, and those things coming back up to the surface because it's eclipse season. Dealing with family and parenting and abandonment, and those inner child, allowing the inner child. The inner child does not seem to want to be playful in the last couple of weeks. It seems like it's really just wanted to be acknowledged for having experienced some significant difficulties to the soul self in early years, that has wanted to kind of be the story, because I've seen it across many tarot and astrology readings over the last couple of weeks. And I know you mentioned that when you were a child, you actually did have some gifts, but then that you shut them down. What was that experience like?
I don't remember a whole lot of that. That is actually something that somebody told me, and it was another psychic. And I know that I was definitely a loner. I have two brothers, and we all live in different areas, so we don't see each other a whole lot. I have a, close relationship, but, I like to be alone. For somebody who's married and has a kid, I do like to spend time alone. and I've never had a problem being alone. I feel very comfortable with that, but I know when I was a child that I spent a lot of time alone, and it was probably because I wasn't very comfortable, in the situation I was in as a child. But I just, I can't think of a particular event or anything that had happened, but things have happened to me throughout my life, just, when people pass away, I have seen signs over and over again. Like when my mother-in-law passed away, I saw butterflies, and it got to the point where I would say, show me a butterfly. And this was way before, this is 10 years ago. So it was way before I really accepted my gifts. I would say, show me a butterfly if you're here. And, there was a day I saw 68 butterflies, and it was just crazy, So I knew she was around. And then, with my mom, at first it was the dragonflies. And I remember, visiting my dad shortly after she passed. And my brother and I were there. And I said, we're probably going to see some dragonflies. And then I said, probably within the next half an hour. And he goes, okay, I'll set the timer. So we got down to like 2 minutes to spare, and then there were like 3 of them that came right over us. But, that kind of thing has always happened to me, always. So, yes, I would say, I didn't think of it like that before. I didn't think of it as being psychic, but I've always felt energy. I've always been an empath. And, oh, gosh, I mean, I can walk into a room and just know if somebody's in a bad mood, or, if they're in a good mood, if they're in a bad mood. But I can feel it before they even open their mouth. And I've always been like that. And, that was one thing that my mother, it was difficult being an empath in that kind of dynamic, because I was always emotional and she wasn't, and we were very opposite in that way.
Yeah, I would say like a symbiotic, but I would say like a symbiotic but not great symbiotic kind of relationship. For sure.
And we did have good times. It was just, I just had to kind of work around. I knew how she was, and I just had to accept that, she did the best she could. It took me a while to really believe that and really understand that some people just can't give you what they don't have or what they didn't get from someone else. And all you can do is try to be better.
That's a compassionate place to be able to end up, which is good, because it's sometimes hard to be compassionate. And I think it's interesting because you talked about having a clover and it not being able to survive 2 rounds of it. But interestingly, the Oracle deck that you have created, the Messages of Love Oracle, has 2 plants, one on the back and one on the front. So I think it's interesting that, the whole imagery that you chose was plant-centric. And I think that would be a nod to a living, something that you have been able to nourish, to bring to life through your card deck. Now, for those who are tuning in, we are getting ready to do some on-air readings today, and this is my teaser, shameless plug, because on Thursday on the Viberarian show, which is the companion to this show, Chris is actually going to be back to talk with us about her deck in depth and how she began to receive the guidance to make these cards and what that whole process has been like. So I don't want to give away the farm today, so to speak, but the card deck is the Messages of Love Oracle cards, and they are available in her Etsy store for all things intuitive. So I love these cards. I was able to I feel very privileged because one day when I saw her at the fair, we were talking in the corner. She said, I've got some decks, some cards I made. Can I show you these? Can I do a reading? Oh, sure. So she pulled out a couple cards and it was like, oh.
I was looking for validation.
They were right on time.
Like, checking them. Do these work?
Oh, you were giving me the spiritual message I needed in that moment, though. You know what I'm saying? So it was like perfect. I was like, these are cool. When are they available? What? You're like, I'm still working on them a little bit. And then you started doing readings. And, I mean, in the space of like less than 90 days, all of a sudden you're Etsy and they're selling like hotcakes on Etsy and people on YouTube are featuring them on their readings. So I was able to do a reading with the cards last week. I cracked open my deck and did my very first reading for that, and they are definitely proving to be a tool that has, of course, you say you charge them with Reiki, and the messages are so loving, but they're not necessarily romance focused, so I love that, although romantic elements, of course, are in it. But we'll definitely be back Thursday on the show to talk more about your deck. But for today, you have agreed to do some mini readings with folks on the air. First of all, before we get into the readings, for people who want to contact you for Reiki services or readings, how can they get in touch with you?
The best way to do that is to just go to my website, either Etsy, or you could go to allthingsintuitive.com and just send me an email. That's probably the best way.
Okay. And you are also available at the Big Psychic Fair, which is up in Roswell, Georgia, which is to the north of Atlanta. This Big Psychic Fair, which is sponsored by Gloria Parker, it's her big baby. I'll tell you that. It's bigger than a baby because it's like one of the longest running psychic fair in Atlanta at this point. But the first weekend of the month from 10 to 6 on Saturday and 12 to 6 on Sunday. And you wear two hats. You do Reiki on Saturday and readings on Sunday, or did I get it reversed?
No, that's right. I do Reiki on Saturday and readings on Sunday. But sometimes I'll throw in, I bring my cards with me when I'm doing Reiki.
Okay. Well, I did get when you did my Reiki, I think you wound up pulling a card. But if you want that, you can get either service in person, of course, for Reiki and distance if you're in the Atlanta area. So please do check out her website. And as this goes over on YouTube, in the description box, for those of you who are listening to this, the contact information will be below for you to go ahead and click on to connect on a permanent basis. So we have several callers who have indicated they would like to have a reading. And so in terms of this, understand that you are in a public forum, and this is a public show that will be saved, and nothing on the internet ever goes away. So just be aware. We'll just get your first name, and that's it, and I'll announce the callers by the last four digits of the phone number. And again, these are mini readings, so we'll try to limit it to like one question and maybe a little clarification, so that we can get as many people on before the end of the show as possible. So, Chris, did you have any other guidance or information for people who are wanting to connect with you for this portion of the show?
If you can just, are you hearing me okay? I just wanted to make sure I just switched over to my headphones. Okay, just want to make sure we have a clear connection, so to speak. I just, if they're interested in a love reading, I'll use my Messages of Love cards, and otherwise I'm just going to use Angel Tarot. And what I do is just, if some other deck calls out to me to focus on that, I'll pull a card from there. But we can just start with one cards and see where it goes. And thank you.
Okay. Oh, I'm so excited. Thank you so much for agreeing to provide readings. It's certainly not the focus of this show. I do like to keep it centered on the stories that you all are willing to share, but it's always a beautiful blessing when you agree to connect with our callers to provide these readings. So thank you so much. So we will start off with our caller who's been holding since the beginning. If I can get the line to pick up, caller 0607. You're on the Psychic Inside Show with Chris. May I have your first name, please?
Hi, Kristin. Hi, Joelle. Thank you for taking my call. I'm Ijerba.
I'm sorry, how do you pronounce your name? Okay. Well, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you,
Got
too.
It. So what is your question for your angels today?
Well, I guess I just want to know what message Spirit has for me that would be most beneficial for me in this moment.
Okay, just overall energy. Okay, for that, I'm going to go to the Angel Tarot for that. I'd like to use this for just overall energies. And unless someone has a specific question about love, this is the deck that I tend to go to. I'm also feeling I'm sorry, you go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say I wanted a chance to have something from your love oracle, but
okay. Yeah, we'll go there.
I don't know.
Okay.
Okay.
Did you just want general guidance from the deck, or did you have a particular question related to that?
Let's see.
Or just general guidance. We can do whatever you want.
I guess. What do I guess I like the question, what's coming toward me in love?
Okay. All right. Let's just take a look. I'm just shuffling here. Okay. What we have here is the decision card. Now it's saying it's time to make a decision about this relationship. So what I'm feeling with this is it's pretty clear that there's something you've been struggling with. Maybe I'm hearing putting off clairaudiently, and something that is coming up for review, something that you need to take some action on it is what I'm getting from Spirit. Does that make sense to you?
Well, if it was flipped in my situation, I'd say. But I think in a way it does. I think I know how I can interpret that for myself.
So you say if it was flipped? If it was the other way around, is that what you mean? Yeah, what I'm getting regarding that is, what I'm hearing is, sometimes we think that we're kind of waiting for somebody else to make the decision, but what I'm getting is this is time for you to decide what's good for you.
Okay.
And I'm feeling like pulling a clarifier on that, just to get a little guidance around that. But it's coming through pretty clear for me. And, of course, I always say, take this how it resonates with you. That's how I feel about it. But how it resonates with you, that's what you're meant to hear. I'm going to just pull a clarifier. These cards are really good for clarifications, too, for different things. Okay. There's been some type of a rejection here, and in this relationship, and it can be, this deck works for love. It also works for, and all types of things in our lives. But what the card says is this rejection is actually divine protection. So what it can mean is, sorry, that my cat took this moment to make some noise in the background, so pardon her. I'm just going to laugh here for a second. So typical of this cat. Anyway, it says this rejection is actually, I have two of them and they're both hanging with me tonight. They're pretty much stuck to my side. They're my soulmate animals. But what this means is that there's been some type of a rejection. It might be a rejection that you've experienced related to someone else. It may be that you have to reject somebody else. But the reason is because it's for your protection. It's divine, the divine protecting you in this particular situation, whether someone rejects you or whether you have to reject somebody else. And I'm also hearing, perspective, and also detach with love and try to look at this situation look at it without judgment. So we have rejection and decision as the two cards that came up. It's time to make a decision about the relationship, and the rejection is actually divine protection.
Wow. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Got it.
Okay.
Hopefully that resonates.
Yes, it did.
Okay, good.
Well, thank you so much for having your on-air reading. Okay, thank you. And the next person that we have on the line is caller ending in 4252. You are on the Psychic Inside Show with Kristin. May I have your first name, please?
Yes, it's Katie.
Hi, Katie. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Yes, thank you. My question is if I should show all of my work to the lady whose initials are MLR. Would she take me on as a full-time client? Would she like my work? Yes, I guess that's the best way to put it.
Okay, you do some type of creative work is what I'm getting?
Yes.
Okay. I'm hearing computers. Is it something to do with computers?
Writing, yes, writing.
Writing on the computer. Okay. For this, I'm going to go to the Angel Tarot.
Thank you.
We'll just take a look. I don't typically give yes or no answers. I use the cards, and the cards will give you the answers because we all have free will. We can change things, and I personally don't feel comfortable saying, yes, you should do this, no, you shouldn't do that. We all have to kind of take in what we are given, and I would say, go with your gut and use the cards as a tool and use any psychic information as a tool. But we're just going to take a look at the Angel Tarot and see what we get regarding that. So the question is, should you show your work to that particular person with those initials?
Yes.
Okay. Let's just take a look here. Okay. We have the Three of Michael. And what came through here is the Three of Michael. It says, release the past. You will grow from this situation, and time heals all wounds. So in the suit of Michael, what I'm getting from this is Michael deals with intellectual responses to emotional situations. I'm feeling like this has something to do, I'm going to pull another card for you, but I'm feeling like this has something to do with the particular question that you're asking. But what I'm getting from Spirit is there's something in your past that is making you feel like you may not be good enough to put forth this body of work. And okay, all right. So let's move forward with this. I just want to kind of dig into this a little bit, and won't take a whole lot of time because I know we have other people coming through, but I just want to kind of get a message from Spirit around this. You're definitely going to grow from the situation, and time heals all wounds. So this is something that, thinking about, going back to where you might have been in the past, there's some inner work. I'm hearing heart healing. There's some inner work, self-esteem, self-love that you are guided or suggested that you focus on to help you feel comfortable in your ability to move forward with this work. I'm also hearing manifesting. Do you manifest? Do you set intentions around the full moons or any other times? Do you use the law of attraction?
In general. Yeah, I try in general. Yeah.
I would just spend some time in meditation and look into, I always suggest people just Google law of attraction, setting intentions, and then we have a big one coming up toward the end of the month. And I would say write down what you want to accomplish and just set your intentions around that. There's a lot of resources available online that can help you do that. And just FYI, for me, everything that has happened for me has been through manifesting, and I'm really feeling that strongly for you. Okay, so I'm going to take a look and see what came through. I'll just pull one more card. Okay, we have new beginnings. Now, the Three of Michael is a minor arcana card, which is a day-to-day type card, and that's something that happens, it's like a daily card. It's something that can happen in the past position. It can be 3 to 6 months back. But I just pulled New Beginnings, which is Archangel Jeremiel, and this is starting a new life, finding your purpose, and a forgiving and compassionate review of the past. So there's definitely some healing that needs to be worked on and resolved, and finding your purpose, that's definitely, I'm feeling that and hearing your purpose is creative pursuits, but there's also a need to go back and kind of review where you've been so that you can move forward. This is a major arcana card in tarot, and what that means is it's a soul lesson. It's something that Spirit wants you to learn, but it's also a major milestone in your life that is coming.
Oh, wow.
So you have the Three of Michael, and then you have New Beginnings. And, what I like to do, too, is have people, when the angel tarot cards are, they're very descriptive in words, but they also have beautiful pictures on them. So I would encourage you to kind of look these up afterward if you feel called to that, to see if any of the imagery speaks to you, because there may be something in there.
Beautiful. Oh,
okay.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
So very much.
And just so you know, this is the Archangel Tarot. It's the Archangel Power Tarot cards, and it's Radley Valentine. So you got New Beginnings and Three of Michael.
Okay. Oh, beautiful. Yes, it seems like it's positive. Yes. Thank you so very much.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. You have a great night.
Thank you. You as well. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you. I am. I'm having a lot of fun.
Thank you for calling in this evening.
Thanks.
And for allowing this reading to happen on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, and so this is the final caller that we have on the line this evening for the readings. This is, let me see if I can bring it on here. Caller ending 1759. You are on the Psychic Inside Show with Kristin. May I have your first name, please?
Hi, Chris. Hi, Joelle. This is Tangela.
Oh, hey, Tangela. I was wondering if you were going to call in.
I am
Angela
so
was my mentor.
proud of both of you all, especially Chris. I am so proud of her.
Thank you.
She is so awesome.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you called, because one of the questions that I didn't get to was if she had done any classes or development other than her Reiki. And so I was hoping she was going to say your name, but I just didn't get to that question. So to everyone listening, this is Tangela, and you are alumnus of the Psychic Inside show, and you are also here in the Atlanta area. Now, what kind of work have you all done together, Chris?
Tangela, actually, I was going through a real difficult time. I won't get into all the details, but, I was grieving pretty bad after my mom passed away. And, I was just very drawn to go into a metaphysical store and just wanted to, look around. I felt like I needed some candles, and I had things that were coming up during my spiritual awakening. And Tangela, I just broke down with her, and she was telling me which candle to get for healing, but she also said, she gave me a message from my mother, and she also told me I was psychic. She was one of the people, but she was one of the first. And I said, and I tell the story all the time, I said, how do you know I'm psychic? And she said, because I'm psychic. So I like to laugh about that all the time because it's really funny. At least it's funny to me. But Tangela holds classes, and she does Reiki, and she has a lot of, and I would highly recommend anybody starting out on the path or just wanting to learn more about all kinds of things. I learned a lot about grounding and clearing from Tangela, and she was the one who helped me pick out my first set of cards, which is the one that I'm using now, the Archangel Power Tarot cards, and she uses these types of cards in her readings, but she's just been a really good person. She also told me my third eye was opening and I was undergoing a spiritual awakening, so it was a pretty big day. I went in for a candle and I came out a psychic. Just so you know, there was another person who worked at the desk, and I said, "You're psychic, right?" And she said, "Yeah, and so are you." So I still did my checking, but after that, I just kind of leaned into it and started believing it. But yeah, Tangela helped me with my first deck. I really wasn't sure which one to go with, and now I'm making my own. So what question?
Right, and that's why I am
Tangela?
so proud of you. Well, my question is, for me, it's like I'm on the other side of the fence now, and I'm loving this. Okay, what do you see for me as far as my career? Because I've retired from corporate, but now it seems like I'm working more again. Now I've been built up to this place where I'm like, okay, now do I want to get my own full-fledged business going, or do I just want to stay where I'm at with the office and, just keeping it mild so I can travel and do different things and enjoy my retirement? But what do you see coming for me?
I just heard in my head, I one thing that came to mind immediately was Reiki, and I heard hospital setting. In some type of a hospital setting. I don't know if you've thought about doing, doing something associated with a hospital that may mean something to you, but I heard it in my head that might be an avenue. Just one of many. I definitely see you, doing more readings, and she's a fantastic reader, just a fantastic reader. Tangela was one of the people who told me that, I learned about manifesting through her and made a vision board, and a lot of these things that have happened in terms of, starting at the psychic fair came through because of her, and having her kind of vouch for me, but also learning how to set the intention that this was going to happen. But back to you. Okay, I'm going to...
You did the work.
See what we get. Well, you taught me how to do the work, and I'm very thankful. Okay, so what I have is... Thank you. Same to you. Okay, I just pulled the major arcana card for you, Perspective, Archangel Shamuel. There's a better way. Pause for reflection and insight, and dare to be different. So, as you know, with the major arcana cards, they're soul lessons that we have to learn, and they're also major milestones in life. So I'm feeling like, in terms of a better way, I don't think that there's anything that you're doing now that's the wrong thing. It just might be that there's a different avenue that you're going to go into in addition to what you're doing that might not be what you expect. And through meditation and reflection, you'll gain that insight. But what's really standing out is that it says dare to be different. And on this card, we have the archangel upside down, and it's looking at things from a different perspective. And I'm feeling like it's something you may not have put a whole lot of thought into, but it will be something that becomes a very important part of the next chapter of your career, in addition to the other things you do. But I specifically heard hospital setting, maybe something to do with healthcare and healing.
Okay.
And I know Tangela's also a Reiki master, so that might make some sense.
Yes. I mean, I have thought about going that way and teaching out of one of the hospitals that has a college also. And so it's kind of connecting. When you said that, I was like, oh, maybe I need to get over there and do. They've been waiting for my paperwork, and I was like, oh, do I really want to be tied down to doing that? I'm kind of enjoying being free. I don't want to do too much.
Well,
it's like, you know.
I just pulled another card for you, and it's King of Gabriel, generous, inspirational, dramatic, and driven. Keep your eyes on the big picture. So that goes along with perspective. Leave the details to others. Experience that leads to success and a genuine concern for others. So I'm getting there. It has to do with healing, and some of the details are going to be things that maybe in this additional opportunity, the people that you're going to be working with will have a set of expectations that are the details, what they want. But it's showing a king, and we have just a lot of light around him. We've got the trumpets, which are a call to action, and an elephant in the background, and there's also some very nice vases and just a lot of abundance. So that's a King of Gabriel, and the suit of Gabriel is creative, related to creative passions in the day-to-day. But it looks like a big life change is on the way.
Wow. Okay. Thank you, Chris.
I'm a fly on the wall. I'm like, ooh. I'm sorry. I'm a fly on the wall. I'm like, oh, this is exciting.
Look, I'm over here fanning now.
Exciting.
Okay, I was cool when I first called, and now I'm all hot. But thank you, Chris.
Well,
I appreciate
the other thing too. Thank you. The other thing is, it says there's a better way, and when you were talking about that opportunity, it may not be something you want to be tied down to, but maybe it's a good thing. That's kind of what I'm getting from these two cards.
Okay.
But thank you. Right. I'm so glad you called in.
Okay. And keep up the good work. You're excellent. And I want to hear about the other products, too, because you have so many products coming out, not just the cards.
Yeah.
I know. You got sage spray.
Soaps. Yeah, I make my own sage spray, and I've really learned the need for that. Definitely. Tangela taught me so much about clearing myself, and it's necessary. You have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Thank you, Chris.
Let me just say,
you're welcome. Thank
Tangela, you all can look up Tangela's interview on the Viberarian YouTube channel. That's Tangela Broomfield, Tangela Varner Broomfield. You can also catch her at the Big Psychic Fair, and she and Chris are the tag team Reiki. So you'll get one on one day and one on the other day, and then they swap out and do readings. So you absolutely can connect with both of them. And Tangela has office in a store up in Roswell, Georgia as well. Now, I wanted to mention that my guest last week, Hypatia Althea Grace, she comes from Detroit too, and so I will be connecting the dots between the two of you because I had made mental note to do so. Because there's always a reason for common connections, and usually so we could go ahead and tie up some little bows and things. It could be that you all have some of the same people that you know and everything. So I'm so thankful to know you. And one of the things about the Psychic Fair and the community, well, the community, it can be a little stressful sometimes as you transition away from like a way of being into a new way of being. But what you will find is on the other side of that transformation, the other butterflies are there with you, you know, and we're thankful for the caterpillars, but there's a new community of people who will be waiting that you will be exposed to. The connections will make themselves known, and it will be revealed. So this is part of the beautiful community that you get to experience once you move yourself from an old way into a new way. So I'm so glad that you called in, Tangela.
You know, thank you for opportunity, Joelle. And you also, Chris. Bless you all both.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
All righty. So we're winding up for the evening, and I did want to ask you, you said that in terms of you knew that we were going to be connecting to, would you share a little bit about?
Yeah, I don't even know if you know this.
I don't think I do.
No, you probably don't. You know, it's funny because I remember seeing, I think I might have just seen those flyers that, you know, that have all of our bios as you go into the Blue Barn, and I saw yours, and when I saw your picture, I just felt like, you know, I just felt the connection. I knew that I, you know, you and I would have some sort of connection. And then when I was making the cards, I kept pulling the, you know, what is really interesting is I've used these cards so many times, but a lot of times they just have nothing to do with romance. And I kept getting this friendship is leading to something more. And when I would pull that, I thought it was you. And it, you know, here we are doing this, and then we're doing something on the cards. But it's, you know, I felt drawn to you and your energy, because, you know, being able to feel energy and feel people's energy, you just are always smiling and laughing and having fun with the people you're reading. And I just felt a connection. And I watched you work. You know, when you're doing Reiki on people, you have a lot of time to kind of look around. And, you know, even though I focus very hard, there are times where, you know, I don't have any clients, and just kind of watch other people and the way they read. And you just had really good energy, and I just knew that you and I would have a connection. And then, you know, we got to know each other, and then it turned into, you know, me being on your show. So, it's awesome. I'm just so thankful and grateful.
Well, I knew something too, because as soon as you said it, I was like, yeah. It's like a little spark, and there's a way that I see it that it's like I know this person, either I know their energy from before, like a past life connection,
that's how
or
I
it's part of
too.
Soul Tribe, and it's like I'm gonna get over there eventually. It was like tickling in the back, like, okay, you're gonna get over there eventually, and it was like, okay, when it happened. And the Card Creator series of interviews is something that I had received guidance that I needed to do, because it is something very special when you bring a tangible, like writing a book, creating cards, doing art, creating music or sound healing. All of those things are very beautiful, and I admire those that have the guidance to do that. So I didn't even know you were doing a card deck, but I knew we were supposed to connect. So we had talked, you know, a couple of psychic fairs previous to that, leading up to it, and I had needed some Reiki, and Tangela was like, oh, well, you need to see Chris, which Tangela's a Reiki person, but she's referring me to another Reiki person, you know. And so, I knew that there would be reasons for it, but then the day when you bust out, you're like, guess what? I created a deck. I was like, what? Oh, yes. Okay. And that was further motivation for me because I had really just done the first episode of Card Creators with Dr. Tracy J. And I had a few more people in my sights to go ahead and get on, but here you were. I didn't even have to go out. It was already connected to me through the divine way of bringing us to those who we are to learn and grow with. And there you were, and you had this deck, and it was perfectly aligned. So I love that, and I know that there are still more things for us to do together and more things to learn and experience and grow from through our connection. So I'm just super grateful, and like I said, I'm very excited about Thursday's show. We'll be on at 9 o'clock Thursday on Eastern Standard Time. It'll be just an hour show. We're going to talk about the deck and you'll be able to pop on my Facebook page and then go to her Etsy store. We'll be showing cards, and we've got YouTube readings, and we've got some recommendations to other people who are using her deck, and we're going to talk about the whole ins and outs and nuts and bolts, the nitty gritty. So if you're a person who has been thinking about doing your own card deck, we're going to talk about that, so get some helpful pointers so that people don't have to necessarily recreate the wheel. Lessons learned from in the trenches, so to speak, of what it's like to bring a tangible product to the world, including the whole retailing aspect of using things like Etsy and other service providers, because you have mugs, you have your sprays. We're going to talk about the whole thing from A to Z, in addition to hopefully having time for you to pull a few cards for people on air. So I'm super excited about this, and I'm thankful that the visions that I've received align with the visions that other people's receive in a way that we can both help to uplift each other. So super excited about that.
Well, I look forward to it, and I'm so thankful that people really resonate with the cards.
Yes, and I will be doing my homework as to what those plants and trees are you have on there, because Spirit keeps telling me there's a deeper message. There's a deeper message. So, we're going to look at that.
It's more about what they represent than a particular tree or a plant. That's really what it's about. It's just something I've always felt strongly about. But we can get into that on Friday.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, Thursday. I'll be late if I'm on Friday.
Yes. Well, absolutely. Did you have any last-minute advice for people who are possibly having gone through a transformative experience or are looking to embrace more about their psychic gifts?
I would just say find your tribe, and just there are a lot of Facebook groups, a lot of closed groups that you can join, and you'll know which one is right for you. But just try to get in touch with other people who've been through something similar, and just know that you're not going crazy. There's a lot of lists that you can look at, and there's so many people who share in the experience, and you'll learn more about what to expect when you read a bit more about it. And just know that you're okay, and you're going to be okay. You're going to be so much better. It's a bit difficult in the beginning, and you may go through that dark night of the soul, and I did, but you come out so much better on the other side. It's worth everything. But just seek out support. That would be my guidance, is just seek out like-minded people.
And like-minded people will find you. We will find each other,
Absolutely.
That's for sure.
Definitely.
Well,
thank you so much, Joelle.
Oh, yes, thank you. This has been the Psychic Inside Show, and my guest this evening has been Kristin McDowell of All Things Intuitive. We will be here Thursday evening at 8 p.m., same Viberarian Radio Network channel, different time, 9 p.m. Eastern. And for all of you who are listening to this tonight or in the future, know that it was meant for you to hear it in the space and time with which you came across it, that there really is no such things as coincidence. So if there's been something that you hear, it's because you needed to hear it in this moment to help validate something that you have been wondering about already. To each of you, I wish for you a week that is filled with so much blessings, that those blessings spill out from your arms and bless the world around you. Know that the light in me absolutely honors the light in you. Namaste.
Namaste.